This is Nigel Maynard, Senior Editor at Residential Architect Magazine, and we're here in New Orleans for the AIA convention, and we're taking a little trip down the street at an interesting multifamily building, and I'm here with two members of the firm that did the project, Jose Alvarez and Jack Sawyer. Gentlemen, tell our readers and our listeners, what are we in right now? What building is this?
930Poydras is a multifamily high-rise building, 250 units of apartments, 500-car parking garage, and amenity spaces.
Okay, what part of the city are we in right now?
Right now we're on Poydras Street near the Superdome. We're within a 1-mile radius of the Mississippi River, the French Quarter, the warehouse district, and the majority of the office space in the city.
Okay, so the building is located in a place where it's pedestrian friendly, folks don't need a car, they can get around.
That's right, it's very centrally located. A lot of the residents don't actually have cars. They live here and work nearby.
Okay, now for New Orleans, is this a different type of architecture that we're seeing, or is this something that's been here all along?
It's a little bit different, but it's a little bit the same. We've sort of reinterpreted a classic New Orleans type of building. We've incorporated courtyards and communal living spaces, much like the traditional spaces you see. We've just done it in a new way.
Okay, and definitely it's a contemporary building. What is the cladding on the exterior?
Cladding is a painted metal panel.
Okay.
And glass, curtain wall.
Okay. Now, how is the building different from what's here already in terms of how you treated the public spaces?
Well, we normally in a French Quarter style building, you have a first floor courtyard directly connected to the street. In this case, we've taken that courtyard and moved it up to the 9th floor, which is the public amenity level for the units.
So, I'm sorry, this is the space that we're in right now?
That's the space we're in right now. We've basically taken the courtyard and pushed it up to the 9th floor, and now our front door to the street is the elevator.
Okay, so this is the common spaces where tenants, residents can come and hang out,
That's right.
Parties and that sort of thing?
That's right, it's meant to be sort of a large living room for the units. The units range from 1,200 square feet down to 600 square feet, so some of them are rather small, and this acts as a large living room where they can watch movies on the projector TV, or use the wireless internet, or just gather and congregate.
Right. What are some of the things that you did differently that someone might say, well, I don't typically see this in a multifamily building?
One thing that we did that I think is one of the hallmarks of the project is we split up the elevator shafts so that when you come up from the first floor, from the parking levels, you have to get off on this floor.
Okay.
You can't go straight to a unit. So you're forced to go through this sort of mixing chamber, and to some degree it forces interaction, but at the same time it sort of provides for spontaneity.
Okay. I also noticed that over here there's a different treatment in how a typical multifamily building is handled, where you have this volume that projects proud of the building. And tell me, what's the idea there?
Well, the idea, and this was one of Jose's ideas, I'm going to let him chime in on this, but we basically slipped this entire volume out 9 feet over the street, which allows you to really get a feel for Poydras Street and sort of interact with that street from above in a way that you wouldn't normally.
Yeah, it's important here when you actually stand at that point, at that calendar point, which is actually the main feature of the volume of the building in the exterior, right? It's recognizable by that volume sticking out, is that you are the ability that this particular point actually Poydras shifted in an angle from a major street, from the river. And at this point, exactly then you have the views of all the way down into the Lake Bridgeton train side and to the Mississippi River.
Okay.
So it's really a connectivity point from the main street.
Sort of an intersection.
Right. Now let's go and take a look at some of the outdoor spaces, because you did some interesting things there too. Okay. Now we've shifted to the outdoor spaces, outdoor space. And again, this is a really cool courtyard. Tell us how you handled this in terms of what goes where.
Well,
go ahead.
Originally, like Jack said, the user of the building is forced in a way to come into this 9 level and actually experience all the spaces around before he enters into their units.
Okay.
And so this mixture, we provided not only support spaces inside, but outside as
Okay.
well. This space that we're standing right now is the courtyard, which it leads directly into the main lobby space and the entry space. So at the moment you walk into the building, you immediately see the views of this exterior space, which is pretty much the idea of the New Orleans courtyard.
Okay.
Outside, we actually have individual townhouses. There are 2 stories high that meet into this space. And out here, the idea of the design was to involve the exterior into the interior instead of the thematic look of the same colors and materials throughout. So
okay.
in a way, you feel that it's part of the interior space,
right.
but it's outside. Part of the features are outdoor cooking for the tenants. We have also this escalated, what's
Called a ziggurat, I guess.
Yeah, ziggurat.
Ziggurat or a set of terraces.
Ideally, part of the ideas were actually not only to create actually more square footage for people to actually be able to lay down on the sun.
That's
so
right.
it's a movement of that nature, but also actually provide sort of like an amphitheater space. We always thought that it would be really interesting for events in such nature.
Now you talked about the thematic colors from inside with the concrete is polished to this, where there's a little texture here, even though the color is the same. What material is this?
This is a composite decking. It's made by Trex.
Okay.
It's a fabricator, and we chose it for durability and for the color selection.
Right.
This is in New Orleans, a very humid and damp climate, and materials deteriorate very quickly. We needed something like this to last as long as the client needed it to last.
Yeah. And finally, for the client, for the tenants who live here, have you heard any feedback for how they're experiencing the building and using it?
Everyone seems to really enjoy it. I've gotten a lot of compliments from people, a few complaints about a few little things, but nothing of consequence. The outdoor spaces have really been a hit. People really like the pool, like the outdoor TV.
Yeah.
The outdoor cooking is nice, and this sky lobby space has really been a hit as well. It's created some really interesting relationships between people that may not have happened otherwise.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for talking to us today. We really
Great.
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Nigel.
All right.